In this episode, we are discussing Medusa. We look at channeling her energy, her story, and how having such a complex female character who plays many different roles and has many different faces is so significant.
Let's talk about what intuition really is.
Let's look at all the places intuition and ego show up in your life.
Let's share honestly.
Let's do the research.
I'm Jamie Hayhurst.
I'm Heather Wood.
This is the Intuitive Girl's Guide.
Hey Jay,
Hey.
we have a different topic today.
Yeah.
I'm kind of excited about it.
People are going to like it.
Okay, so we're talking about Medusa today.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about why, and I want to talk about sort of our angle of speaking of this kind of thing.
Yes,
Because
please clarify.
Yeah. Because as per usual, we have our toe in both woo-hooey-ness
Right.
and a little bit more everyday practicalness.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I think this is kind of a great topic to illustrate that, but also we try to present this or anything in a way that you can then put it in to your views the way you want.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Maybe you're a little bit more woo-hooey about this stuff than we are.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully the way we present it allows you to incorporate it that way. Maybe you're less. Maybe you're just getting your toe in the water about this stuff, or you're still a little
right.
Oh, prove it.
Yeah.
Hopefully this is something that you can deal with also.
Yeah. I think it's interesting. I don't know if it's just my algorithm or something, but I've been seeing more things on social media with a very woohoo spin. I think I sent you a TikTok with something really bizarre.
Well, yeah, a lot of TikToks like that. But yes, I know what you mean.
And I was why am I seeing more of this now? And I don't think that there's inherently anything wrong with what we're about to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I just think that with most things that we talk about like this, it becomes such a slippery slope.
Yeah, I agree.
Really, into madness.
Into madness.
You know what I mean? It's not just oh, I'm thinking differently or I see things differently than you. That's obviously great. People should see things differently, but people are sort of sliding into madness.
Yeah, and I think that's important to mention because it makes it really hard to exist in the space of anything woohoo.
Correct.
The more people
Correct.
sort of go too far and take it away from how to actually use it in your life or have any mention of its roots or the cultures that it began. The more we get away from that and we culturally appropriate, we do all this stuff and we make it just a little too wacky.
Yep.
The less accessible it is for everybody.
Exactly.
Not to mention, that's also horrible to not respect a culture or
Correct.
to mislead people, or all of a sudden you're starting to, ask Robin Williams to beam you up in a spaceship. I mean, we're not lying about the slippery slope.
No,
we have an episode on that if you'd like to listen to it. But
right. Do you think that the people in the Mother God cult, that's what we're referencing.
Right.
There's a documentary about that we spoke about at length. But do you think they didn't start by talking about channeling Medusa or channeling Kali or channeling Archangel whoever? That's how it starts.
Yeah.
And so it is a very slippery slope.
Yeah. Because you introduce the ideas and then you sort of take advantage of people in certain states to bring them down the line to start believing these really wild things.
Right.
And that's dangerous.
Yeah.
And even on the smaller level, you make a lot of people not want to do it.
Exactly.
What we're going to talk about is the beauty of channeling in the energy of someone like Medusa.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But as soon as I say that, I can literally feel people cringe or go oh my God, or people maybe run towards me in a weird way that I'm whoa.
Yes.
That's not what we're doing.
Yes.
So that's why I want us to talk about this.
I agree.
And I want to talk about a lot of different powerful energies that you can call in, but I don't want it to become inaccessible for everyone.
Right.
So you might look at it, and I'm going to be honest with how I look at it in a minute, but you might look at doing this kind of work as just actually channeling the actual Medusa.
Mm-hmm.
and like feeling the energy and picturing her in your space and like talking to her. You might do that. Okay. You might also just think, what can I like, if I hear her story, what can I take for myself?
Correct.
And what can I use to help me? Both are channeling.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
Now, the one I just said that sounds less exciting is what I do.
Same.
Okay.
Yeah, same.
Not that I don't get woohoo on channeling something and trying to get like some kind of message from it. I do plenty of woohoo shit like that. I'm not like, I have told you before that like sometimes I'll try to like, I'll pick a celebrity or something that's passed away and see if I could get anything. Right. So I'm not trying to sell myself as non-woohoo when I clearly am.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
But do I in most of my life walk around like channeling stuff like that? No. Do I think like, oh, like hearing this story, like I relate to this part, or this part's, prevalent in my life in this way. So let me think of that person to like pull in some strength or pull some traits of my own forward or be more accepting of them. That is something I do all the time and that you do all the time. And that's something that anyone can do all the time. And that is channeling. That's how our pagan ancestors channeled.
You also do that with like real people in your life.
Yes.
Like with like a mentor or a boss or a friend or someone that like, if they have a certain characteristic that you feel like you need or you'd like to have or you need in this situation.
Yeah. You pull in that inspiration.
That in. Right. Inspiration. It's a perfect word.
That's channeling.
Right. Correct.
You can channel. There are plenty of times where I have to stand up for myself, where I sort of have to like lift a little bit out of my intense empathy to stand. If it's for someone else, it's no problem. If it's for myself, there's a bit of a challenge sometimes, right? Where I will literally channel in the energy of Virginia Stetson, who is my grandmother.
That's awesome.
Who couldn't care less about anyone's feelings in the room. She's getting what she needs. Okay.
Yep, love it.
Especially in her old age.
Love that for her.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like it doesn't have to be.
No, it doesn't have to be like some mythological creature or an angel or deity or something. It can be any energy. Everything's energy.
Yes.
It can be any energy that you're looking to call in.
And something that I find disappointing, and this is just in myself, and I know you feel the same way because we've discussed it before, but I actually think it would be intensely cool and powerful to like go into a room of people like at a retreat or something, right? And like, let's all channel in the energy of Medusa.
Yep.
Okay. But if I saw that someone was doing that, I would be like nervous as 100%. To what that was going to be like, because there's been so much stuff in this industry that's going to sell that wrong, or it's going to give people the wrong impression, or it's going to end up being kind of creepy. Or I'm like, am I going to be sucked into a cult at the end? Like a Medusa cult? Like what's happening? Like, do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I would literally never do something like that unless it was me and you leading it. Because I wouldn't trust that it would be safe by anyone else.
And that is such a bummer, because then it makes the woohoo stuff that you want to do, I'm like, ugh.
Like, it excludes people who are sort of on the periphery or just learning, because like, it's not accessible to them.
You don't have to be a psychic. You don't have to be someone super into woohoo to channel the energy of somebody or something into your life. In fact, I think every time I read a book, whatever the main character is, which is usually a woman if I'm reading it, I take something from her into my life.
Right.
And it's not always like the thing that's trying to be sold from her, but there's like, when you finish a book and you're like, oh, I want to be more like so-and-so. I'm going to be more director. I'm more okay with this part of myself because so-and-so was, that character was. That's all channeling.
Yes.
And that's all really powerful stuff.
You know what else is channeling?
What?
When... I mean, maybe it's okay for like certain groups of people, but like when someone says like, what would Jesus do?
Oh yeah, that's right.
Channeling. Like you're
channeling thinking, that energy.
Exactly. Like what would Jesus do? Oh, he would do this, so I'll do that. That's channeling. I'm not saying you should.
No, I'm
not saying you should do that, but like that's an example of channeling.
Anytime someone's like, I want to, hey, Archangel Michael, can you protect me? Or can you help me find something? Or Raphael, can you help me heal? You're just channeling angel energy.
Yep.
That's all you're doing.
Yep.
So channeling gets this sort of idea that like, and some people do this where they channel like a spirit as a mediumship thing. And they sort of act like the spirits in their body and they're talking as them. that
like
gives
your Whoopi Goldberg and Ghost.
yeah.
That's a great movie though.
I think some people do that and it's probably well intended in how they do it, but I don't know anybody who does it that way that's legit.
I do.
Okay. Like they talk as the person?
Well, I mean, I've seen mediums whose I don't know that they know they're doing it, but their voices change.
That's fine.
Like
that's
their affect changes,
yes.
and like.
But if you're like,
tell.
if you say to me, okay, I'm now your dead grandma.
Oh,
I'm gonna talk as your dead grandma.
No. And their head starts spinning around. No.
Or they're just like talking to you in a weird, like that's. Right. I literally don't know anyone who does that. I know a lot of people who do it.
Correct.
Do you sort of take on like all that sort of yes, because that's what
you're
channeling actually is, right? But you don't turn into the person. They don't take over your body and then you do like a dance like Whoopi Goldberg and Demi Moore. Like I mean, that was a really cool scene. I'm not mad at it, but it's just not what it's really like.
Agreed.
And I think if we don't talk about that, then people get tricked and then, there's another documentary for us to watch about a cult.
I mean, I like those. But I hate that it happens to people.
We're willingly watching them. Right, but I don't want more people sucked into them.
I don't.
Yeah. Okay, so let's start talking about Medusa.
Okay.
First of all, Medusa has become like way more relevant all of a sudden in society.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is people started using her as an emblem in 2020 with the Me Too movement.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about why and all that kind of stuff. But I think it's also very interesting to look at like what mythological figures and again, I feel like we say this all the time, but in case you're new, like a myth and a fairy tale and like these are all the same thing. These are stories being told and retold in different ways to reflect something in the culture at the time.
Right.
Okay. So to teach a lesson. Sleeping Beauty wasn't like a Disney fairy tale to begin with.
Right.
But
Right, they weren't real people either. They're stories.
Right, exactly. So, and they're being told and retold in different ways to teach lessons and to be able to channel energy and like all of this stuff. So you also have to remember our pagan ancestors weren't popping a cassette. That just made me sound really old. Popping a cassette into the VCR like we were as kids, right?
Right.
They weren't streaming Sleeping Beauty.
Right.
They were talking about it to each other. They were using these kinds of stories to teach a lesson and to pass on wisdom. And especially once the patriarchy took over, these stories were not allowed to be told because they were outside of a religion.
Right.
So they were sneakily told.
Right. But even if like, I can sort of hear the haters a little bit, not that they would be listening to this, but like, even if mythological characters were never real, you can still channel their energy.
Yeah.
Because think about how long those stories of these characters have been told and think about the energy that becomes like attached to them when they're told and then like sent down familial lines and through cultures. And so there's still a lot to tap into, even if the persons aren't real.
100,000 billion%. Now, this leads me to the sort of woohooey part that I wanted to include in this, that some people are going to be like, that's a little too much for me. Okay. That's fine. But I want to be honest with how I see it and how we look at it. Because I think if you hear all of it, you might go like, oh, maybe that's not as weird as like maybe hearing it singularly, you'd be like, oh.
Yeah.
But the more conscious people are of a story. So most people have heard of Medusa.
Absolutely.
Okay. The more powerful that entity to channel is, whether it existed as a human person or not.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yeah.
So if you wanted to channel, like me channeling my grandmother is very powerful because I knew her and loved her.
Right.
But if I wanted to channel Medusa and I had heard one story about her when I was 8,
right,
my ability to channel that would be lesser.
Exactly.
Okay.
Right.
But if it was a story that I had just read or I had like thought about and like been with me since I was a kid and thought about it for a really long time, then it would be more powerful.
Right.
If it was a story only I knew and I channeled, it would still be powerful.
Right.
But not as powerful as one that a lot of people know.
Like a collective energy.
Yes. Right. And I know that's a little bit trippy, but if you take out the word energy and you change it with thought or like anything, right? Like it's all the same concept.
Yeah. And this might be a little too like left field Maybe we edit this part out, but
Probably not.
that's also how propaganda works.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, but it's like using that like collective energy, but like for bad.
Yes, like look at how many different people
Right.
are repeating this idea, or you heard it this millions of times.
Or saying like, I mean, this is the controversial part, but like singing the Star Spangled Banner, or like saying the Pledge of Allegiance, or anything like that, that people have collectively been doing over and over and over again for decades at this point. Like the energy that's built up around them.
Yes.
Like even if a kid's just reciting it in school and they don't know exactly what they're saying.
Yes.
There's an energy to that because everyone's been doing it. You know what I mean?
100%. And it's not necessarily like bad. Like it's not necessarily connected to like, oh, like we're not saying because it's patriotic, it's gross. We're saying that allows people to use it in a harmful way.
Correct. Exactly.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Right. So then it's like weaponized by the extremists in this country. Like those things are weaponized, and that's how you pull others into that extremism, is because like, oh, well, I sing the national anthem too. Exactly. I did that my whole life too.
Yes.
And you're losing the critical thinking.
Exactly.
Right.
I mean, because you actually end up using intuition in that.
Correct.
Because it's not thinking.
It's not right.
You're having an emotional response to a song or a phrase or a person, and that's being used.
Right.
You know, anytime, as someone who like pretty much every time I hear the national anthem being sung, have a thought like, should I take a knee?
Oh yeah, same.
Okay. Yeah. Like I don't, but I think the thought occurs to me.
Right.
Okay. So as that, I will feel teary if I'm at like a baseball game and everyone's singing it, or like that moves me because of what you're talking about.
Right. That the collectiveness of that.
Yes.
That's why I love a parade.
Yes.
It's like because like everyone's in the same
your first
energy.
chakra.
Right. Exactly. Everyone's participating in this same moment, and you feel a part of that. You just have to be careful of what that is that you're a part of.
Exactly. And that you sort of have this ability to be manipulated in those kinds of moments. So that's just when you want to be careful, and why you want to keep tuning into your intuition and go like, is someone trying to tell me what to think, or is someone asking me how I feel?
Right.
Because that will tell you their intentions.
Yes. All right. So that was the side tangent.
Yeah. There's probably going to be a lot of those on this episode. But one of the reasons I wanted to do Medusa is because, not just because I have a necklace of her, because I do.
It's cool.
But because she is an icon that to me really illustrates how culturally stories change and shift, and how based on what's going on in the world, someone's story can be told differently.
Yes.
She's the perfect, is she good or is she evil? Is she the monster or is she the victim?
Is she the
or
bad
is
guy?
She a protector, or is she
the bad guy?
The scary bad guy? Yeah. Like what is she? Or maybe she's all of those
and
things.
She's played a lot recently as the bad guy. I mean, not like in culture, but like in movies and stuff. You see her as the bad guy.
Exactly. Okay. So I would also like to say that I will probably repeat this, but when it comes to mythology, there are many different versions of different myths. And I would invite you, because I find it to be very interesting, however, I'm not going to talk about it for 1,000 hours here, to go and look at like, oh, this is sort of its origins, how it was told. And then in these years, it started getting told like this. And you kind of have to understand too, that these stories were being put into culture by the famous storytellers at the time, which were like, they were referred to as poets, but they were just writers. Right. They're not all writing poetry, is correct. What I mean, but that would be the term that you would see used. Yeah. Okay. So you might hear me talk about this, and I'm going to talk about different versions of the story, and you might be like, I've heard this one. Probably. Yeah. That's normal. That's how this works. In addition, Medusa is Greek mythology, but Greek and Roman mythology combine at one point. And the story we know now that we'll talk about is like a Greek-Roman combo. Right. So you also need to have a little bit of an understanding of that if you're like, why it's colonizing. Yes. That's the answer. Correct. Okay. So all of these stories are taken in different ways, and depending on where in the world you're learning about them, you're going to hear a slightly different version because of that. Yeah. I mean, starting right around that time, the answer to everything is colonizing. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. This is also not a full, deep history on Medusa, but I if you're into this, the story we're
Right.
going to talk about, I would say go dig more. It's fascinating.
Definitely. Yep.
It's very fascinating. Okay. The first mention of Medusa or beings like her, 6,000 BC.
Wow.
Like, that's how old this
That's
shit
old.
is.
Yeah.
Like,
that's very old.
so when you're calling in an energy like this, it's
Right.
going to be very strong and
Yep.
very powerful as a warning. Now, I'm not saying that means a snake-headed woman is going to show up in your room and wreak havoc in your life, or you're going to become ill, or you're going to
Frozen
turn
to
to
death.
stone. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Because you do that. I'm just saying you do need to be able to control your own energetic boundaries
100%.
before calling in energy like that.
Well, I was going to say that applies to all energy, actually.
And I was going to say we have episodes on that.
Yes.
Should you want to go there before you try this?
I mean,
totally
do
fine.
that before you hang out with people. Regular people.
Yeah, alive people. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Okay. So originally, and in most stories, you'll see Medusa referred to as a gorgon.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
That's the kind of creature that she is.
Mm-hmm.
And gorgons in Greek mythology are unattractive.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to put that out there because we're going to talk about that afterwards. Okay. Winged woman with snakes in her hair and wrapped around her limbs.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you are instantly picturing a beautiful, sexy woman, we're going to get to that. But that originally, she was never that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Right. No, she definitely is sexy in like modern day tellings of Medusa.
Mm-hmm. We're going to talk about that. So that's why I'm like really...
It's weird.
Okay. So gorgons, not just Medusa. Medusa was a gorgon.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But gorgons in general punished men who had committed unspeakable crimes on Earth.
As she should.
That was her job. And isn't it interesting that would be a villain?
Exactly. Right.
Because I think if that was a man, that sounds
He'd
like
be a hero.
The origin of every hero, male
Exactly.
hero story I've ever heard.
You are correct.
Huh.
Interesting.
In later versions, you see gorgons as protectors of oracles a lot.
Cool.
Okay. Now you also have to like expand your thoughts of the word oracle for a minute. Again, we talk about this, you know, in many episodes, but it isn't just someone who's like telling you the future. Okay, it could be.
I mean, it's cool.
Yeah, but an oracle is really anyone who's like speaking things and teaching things and, you know, using their voice to talk back then.
Right.
Okay. Was it usually in like the spiritual woohoo way? Yes, but it didn't have to be. Okay. So anyone telling a story, gorgons were protecting them.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't mind that when I was telling a story.
That's cool.
Yeah. So images of gorgons have been used for protection since forever ago. Probably since 6,000 BC, okay? And across all different cultures. So it's again one of those pagan things that you look back and you're like, they would have no idea they all had the same stuff, but they were using that. And modernly, you can still see on older churches like gargoyles.
Yes.
That's their version of a gorgon.
Exactly.
Okay? They are protecting. You can find like amulets, swords and shields you can find that all have gorgons on them. Okay? And if you're like, but when I see a gargoyle on a church, it doesn't look like Medusa. That's originally what Medusa looked like. Right. Okay. I have a little picture for you here. I thought maybe we could share it on our social media at some point. Okay. But this is the original picture here, Jamie, of Medusa.
Oh, cool.
And this is Kali.
Oh, they look the same.
Yeah. So...
Oh, interesting.
Again, cultures who wouldn't have connected at the time have a woman protector, not necessarily attractive. Teeth's not like she's like
sharp teeth, long tongue.
Yeah, kind of what you would picture Kali if you know that more, right? Yeah. Like, snakes around the hair, right? Like sort of like protecting and a little bit scary. Aggressive is a good word, right? Yeah. This is something that's normal. Yeah. Okay, this is an energy we have. We don't have this anymore.
I love that energy.
That's not, I didn't grow up as a little girl with images of women like this.
No, women like that you saw were bad when we were growing up.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, more on that. Yeah. So I would like to tell you a short version of the most popular story of Medusa.
Okay.
All right, but I think we should take a quick break.
Okay.
And we'll come back and I will try to succinctly tell that because I want people to have it so that they can properly channel her.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll be right back.
We'll be right back after this short break.
You know what goes great with podcast listening?
A great cup of coffee from a great coffee shop.
Yep. Beans roasted in-house, amazing baristas. You know where I'm talking about.
Restoration Coffee. Can we go?
Yes, I need an Americano and maybe a panini too.
Ooh, I need blueberry maple latte and probably a resto bowl.
Ooh, yeah. Check them out and visit restoration-coffee.com.
Let's talk about what we're obsessed with this week. Okay, Heather. I think we're going to have to change the name of this segment to like Debbie Downer Dungeon or something. I like alliteration, so it has to be all D's.
Oh, I was going to say like Jamie introduces something she thinks is just negative, and then Heather takes it and tries to add a positive spin. That's too long.
That's perfect though.
I mean, that really illustrates.
It's great.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not obsessed with anything good, and I would not so much blame that on myself. Actually, I would blame it on this society we live in.
I think that's fair.
Like,
I don't know what you're going to say, but I'm already in.
What are we going to talk about? Like Diddy being a pedophile and like a sex trafficker? Oh, no, thank you. Like, I mean, we should talk about it, but it's Debbie Downer Dungeon. Like, it's just such a bad time. That's not even it.
Okay.
The thing I wanted to say, and I feel like I just feel compelled to continually follow up on this.
Yeah.
Is that Israel is now bombing Lebanon at the time of this recording.
Yeah.
Like all the times we've talked about, we have an episode about Israel and Gaza and Palestine and the whole thing. And we've done updates on that. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say that like, this is still happening.
There's still like, even if you're one of those people that you're like, well, it's not in America, but like there's still American journalists trapped.
And we're still paying for it.
But their words aren't coming, like they're there and we can't even get their actual true stories. Like it's so fucking messed up. And it's like, so you're being screwed with. You're not being told the truth. It's really frustrating. Not only is this terrible thing happening, but it's being portrayed, twisted. Yeah.
And like all the stories about like the hostages and like all this stuff, like that Israel never wanted to free. Like they were offered to be freed and they said no. But there are no hostages in Lebanon.
Right.
But there are resources there.
Yeah. Right.
Right? So like that's the trick.
Yeah.
Is that we're sold these stories and these like these optics.
These optics, yes.
That aren't accurate.
Yeah.
And then but like how do you it's like these mental gymnastics of like how do you now rationalize this bombing of Lebanon?
Right.
When that story doesn't apply. There wasn't like an attack at a concert and there are hostages.
Right.
Like now what? Now why is this
How
okay?
are they twisting this now?
And why are we sending billions with a B over there when we have no health care system here?
Yeah.
Or we have one, but it's shitty and terrible and for profit.
Or even just like a hurricane just came through and those people aren't going to get help.
No.
Do you know what I'm saying? Right. Like, and it shouldn't, I'm not trying to make it like about, let's make it about Americans.
Just about Americans.
Yeah. Right. No, that's not, I'm not trying to do that.
But it's our money. Like that, the thing is like, we need to be thinking globally. We need to be thinking about people all over the planet, not just us. Mm-hmm. But that's our money that our government is sending over for the murder of people when there are very like substantial issues here that need to be addressed that we could be supporting and solving.
Exactly right. I think everyone just needs to still stay educated. That's how I feel. Like a lot of people that maybe I'm not talking to them if I'm being honest, but I'm like listening to their conversations.
Right.
Or I'm on the periphery of a conversation, which I'm really good at.
Yeah.
So are you.
Yep.
They're sort of being like, I just can't keep up with it anymore. Or I can't listen to it anymore or something. And where I believe in having boundaries and protecting yourself, I also believe that you can't do that.
I was literally just going to say before you segged into this is like the fatigue is intentional.
Yeah, you're right.
And like that, it's supposed to be exhausting.
You're supposed to get sick of it or whatever.
And tired of it. And
yes.
You're supposed to feel hopeless.
Yeah.
And like you can't do anything
yeah.
and nothing will ever fix this and
yeah.
it's too big of a problem.
Yeah.
That is intentional.
You're right.
So yes, you do need to have boundaries around it and you do have to like protect yourself and your energy and your mental health.
Yes.
Yes. But when you're feeling like, fuck, I can't, this is, what are we ever going to do about this?
Yeah.
That's how they want you to feel.
Yeah.
They being patriarchy.
Yeah.
The American government.
Yeah. I think
you know
just
what I mean?
This is what, I mean, I say this to you in a lot of different forms all the time. Because one of my most favorite versions of you is you angry, which makes me sound like a terrible friend.
Like
I realize
you're like a one-person club.
Oh. Well, I'm happy to be the president of that club. I don't think I'm a one-person club, but I'm definitely maybe the biggest fan in the club.
Absolutely are.
But I feel that way not just about you, but I feel that way about a lot of people because especially as women, it's sort of like you're not allowed to be angry about something.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's this idea that you can only exist as an angry woman. You can't also be a happy woman and a loving woman and a caring woman. But like you're all those things. You're multi-layered and multifaceted. So continue to be an angry woman about it or angry man or angry however you identify and also be the other things. But just don't let that part go.
Yeah, and I think this is how we now segue into talking about Medusa.
Talk about a layered, multifaceted story. Complicated
character.
Woman.
Right.
Yeah. All right. Well,
let's go talk about it.
All right. Let's do it. All right, Jay.
Mm-hmm.
Back to our girl, Medusa.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to tell you her story.
Okay.
And you've probably heard it before, or you've probably heard a version of it.
Yeah, you've probably only like heard a brief version of it.
Uh-huh. This is the most famous version, and this is told by a Roman storyteller.
Okay.
So this is a Greek mythology character where a Roman storyteller is telling about her. He was a very famous Roman storyteller named Ovid.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So keep in mind the cultural significance of this, but also know it's not like, I mean, this definitely happens, but it's not like an American who's never been to Australia or something telling an Australian story.
Right.
This is like the cultures are mixing at this point.
Right.
But I think it's important to see that influence, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Okay. So in this one, this is the story. She has a bunch of different stories, but this is the one about Poseidon and Athena connected to Medusa.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in this telling, Medusa is a completely human version of herself, and her two sisters are Gorgons.
Oh,
now,
okay.
Medusa is a Gorgon. However, she appears human.
Okay.
All right. And there's different theories as to why. People have written sort of like prequels as to why. Like
fanfic.
I mean, that's what happens with mythology, right?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
So go and look at all of that.
Right.
But it doesn't quite pertain to what we're talking about. So I'm not
Okay.
going to go into all of that.
Gotcha.
In some versions of this sort of retelling, she's sort of half human, half Gorgon, which is what you picture when you see like the sexy Medusa with snake hair.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
That also existed around the same time in this same story. So she either looks completely human or she's half Gorgon, half human.
Right.
Okay. So Medusa is also referred to in every single tale at this time as a young maiden, which if in your mind that makes you think virgin, that's not what it meant. It was sort of giving her an age range.
Correct.
Of most likely a teenager.
Right, before she would be having children.
Yes.
Right, well, and that would be teens, but
yeah,
before then.
Not considered like a woman of the age to become a mother.
Correct.
Okay. Poseidon attempts to seduce Medusa in this story. Okay. She rejects him. He doesn't like that. She runs away. This is in this version, the place she flees to is Athena's temple.
Okay.
Okay. I want to say this carefully because I want to I don't want people to not be able to listen because of triggers.
Okay.
But basically, Poseidon chases her in there, finds her, and does what he had intended to do anyways, despite her not wanting.
Okay.
I'm trying to avoid the word.
Okay.
But it's the bad word. She's sexually assaulted. Okay.
Okay.
I'm trying to be gentle with it, not because I want the story presented gently, but because I want anyone to listen to it and to be able to channel it. So I don't want it to become, do you know what I'm trying to say?
Like sullied. Yep.
Okay.
Right.
So,
like too scary or too traumatizing.
yes.
Got it.
But what I want you to hear is young maiden rejects a powerful male god.
Right.
And
also, once you start seeing these themes and you look at mythology, you'll see them everywhere.
yes, exactly.
Right.
But the telling of what happens and why and how people are portrayed after is very, very telling as well. Okay. So Medusa is raped, sexually assaulted. Okay. Yeah. In Athena's temple.
Jesus.
Okay. So in Ovid's version, Athena becomes angry that her temple is the site of this and punishes Medusa.
What? Who's victim blaming?
More on this in a minute.
What?
To punish her, she turns her into a snake-like creature like her sister. So she turns her into like fully Gorgon and makes it so that if any man looks directly at her, he turns to stone and she is sent to exile.
Okay.
Okay. Later in this story, Perseus seeks to find Medusa to chop off her head and use it to defeat the sea monster Cetus.
Right.
Okay. Now, could our boy maybe just like actually just ask Medusa for help to defeat the guy? Yeah. Does he? No, he chops off her head.
Is it because she's just so ugly with the snakes on her head, or do they have like special powers?
Well, because she'll turn them to stone and then the person can be defeated. Okay. So they're using the head to turn.
Right, but is it the snakes that is it like?
It's just her gaze.
Okay.
So any man gazes upon Medusa, he turns to stone
it's
and
not
is easily killed. No, the snakes
Those are just part of her Gorgonness.
They're symbolic. Yes.
Correct. Right.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah, the snakes don't bite you. I'm sure there's a tale where they do, but in the main stories, no.
No.
Okay. So in order to defeat Medusa, because he can't look directly at her, Cetus uses like the reflection in a shield to figure out where she is, and he does chop off her head.
Yeah, in later stories, it's a mirror.
Yes.
Depending on where you're watching it.
Exactly. As when she's decapitated and killed, out of her neck fly her two children, Pegasus, and I think it's pronounced Chysaor.
I didn't know that.
Chysaor. Yes. Now, I tried so hard to find any sort of like meaning or symbolism to why they would fly out of her neck. In some versions, Athena's curse prevented Medusa from having children. And so these are Poseidon's children also. So they are...
that she never birthed.
They are results of the assault. And so they fly out of her at her death through her neck. And I could not find any... There was nothing, but I've never heard a story where that happens. So I did try. I couldn't. Maybe someone can write in if they know. But I find that to be very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't love that part.
Yeah.
Or many of the parts.
I don't love any of it. Most tellings of Poseidon, so like most stories where you talk about Poseidon, also if you think of like Neptune, that's the same god. That's just like the different versions.
Yep.
This type of attack on a woman is not out of character.
No.
This would be normal in their storytelling.
Yes.
I hate to use the word normal, but that would be true.
Yeah.
However, in tellings of Athena's behavior is way out of character for how this goddess is usually presented. Right. So in this tale, she's super jealous of Medusa's beauty, and she's like irrational and angry and petty, and she's mad at Medusa for being the one who's assaulted.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only version of any Athena story I could find painting her this way. Okay?
Yeah.
She's usually, if you know anything about Athena, or if you want to do your own research, she's usually like known, like in the list of her characteristics for channeling.
Yeah.
She's rational, fair,
Wise.
just, confident. No earlier versions of this tale, the whole Medusa tale, include a sexual assault. Only this one.
Mm-hmm.
Many after,
Mm-hmm.
none before.
Okay.
So I'm giving you that because in some Greek versions of this story, they wrote it that Athena was protecting Medusa. So when this happened, she wasn't punishing Medusa by turning her fully Gorgon and giving her these gifts and sending her away. She was helping her.
Okay.
So let me make it so gods aren't chasing you like this.
Right.
Let me bring you back into your full Gorgon form. And
Right.
if any man looks at you, he turns to stone. How do you like that?
Right.
Now, think about, just for a minute,
Mm-hmm.
if you've just been assaulted by a man,
Mm-hmm.
and to punish you, do you think someone would make men who looked at you turn to stone? Or do you think that would sound like a real badass power?
Yeah, that'd be cool.
Like if I could channel that actual power, sometimes I would definitely use it.
No, yeah, yeah.
Like if you think about it rationally, it's like, wait a minute, is Athena being painted in a weird way here? Because it kind of makes sense that she would like send her away for hiding so people couldn't find her,
Right.
and give her more power.
Yep. That does make more sense.
Okay. Now there are also many more stories about Athena's Gorgon sisters and the three sisters, but in all of those stories, these three women are protectors.
Mm-hmm.
They're protectors of different spaces, protectors of different things. So again, why would you send someone whose job is to protect, who's just been attacked? Like, why would you punish them? Maybe we're telling Athena's story wrong because, Jamie, we don't want to give the impression to women that if they stick together and can be more powerful.
Well, that's the thing, is that these aren't real people. Right, they're stories, so they're being told in a certain way.
Yeah, so it's like, honestly, I don't believe that version. I believe that from everything I know about the energy of Athena and all the other stories told about her, that Athena came in and maybe for some reason couldn't punish Poseidon. I don't think he was there. I think in the story when Athena comes, Medusa is there.
Right.
I think Athena was helping Medusa.
And Athena was like the goddess of war and strategy.
Yeah. So why would she?
Make sense.
Yeah. So but think about patriarchal men for a minute.
No thanks.
Okay, too bad. Just for a second. You spend too much time thinking about patriarchal men. Don't ask me to do it more. I get it. But for the sake of this,
yes.
If you were to tell women a story about two women sticking together,
that doesn't fly.
Right. A woman being powerful enough to help another woman become more powerful, that's not a great story. But here's the even bigger one. In order to help Athena, she made her not desirable to men.
Right.
How can that be a good thing?
Exactly.
How can any woman ask for that, Jamie?
Right, exactly.
Yep. There are also, unfortunately, some versions of this story that say Medusa slept with Poseidon for personal gain.
What?
It's the story of, no, she seduced him and then said that that's what happened because, for personal gain.
And that's the problem with like stories being retold and people putting their own twists on them.
It's also the problem with the script we still see now.
Exactly.
Even in the stories told where they say like that woman slept her way to the top. She slept with her boss to get that job. How is that the fault of the woman? Right. Why is the structure
allowing that?
Why are the men in power saying the way to climb the ladder is this? And then so a woman does it or doesn't do it, whatever.
Right.
She's the what?
And why is he not in trouble for giving her the promotion?
Yeah. So we're supposed to feel bad for him?
Right.
Are you kidding?
I mean, I've seen TikToks of like these people infiltrating these like crazy Trump rallies and them saying that Kamala Harris has slept her way to the top.
I see that too. Yeah.
What are you talking about? Yeah. But that's such a common trope used against women.
Again, against women.
You don't even think of like what you just said. Like that doesn't actually make sense to be able to sleep your way to the top.
Even if that was possible,
It
which
doesn't
I
make
have
sense.
never heard of any
No.
woman being successful at that, even if she said, I've never heard a woman want to do that, but I'm just saying, let's
no.
say this archetype exists.
Mm-hmm.
You're telling me that men have created this and you're
Right.
mad at the woman in it.
For playing the game.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Okay. I don't know if you're aware of this, Jamie. Just kidding. You are very aware of this. Our culture doesn't really love a story about ragey women.
Oh, no. No.
I don't know any stories of a woman full of rage that have been told well. Like, been told, like, the woman wasn't a bad guy.
No, it's like you said earlier. It's like, it's either or. It's like the virgin or the whore. You're either like a people pleaser or a ragey woman. Like, there's no layer. There's no in between.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's no acceptable place where you can be an angry woman.
Exactly. Now, on that same thing, if you're like, well, I can think of some like angry women characters who are villains. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What do they look like?
Right.
How many times have you seen a hero or a villain woman that's like a regularly main character that was not scary, like that was scary looking,
Mm-hmm.
that was not portrayed as like probably cold but beautiful or sexy or desirable in some way?
I was just thinking of Maleficent.
Yeah.
Like gorgeous.
Drop dead gorgeous.
Right.
Yeah, no, I'm not just talking about the Angelina Jolie.
No, yeah, like they all are. Yeah.
Even the cartoon is hot.
Right.
Like it's.
But that's how like our culture and society weave together power and like sexiness, and they're both bad. Right? Like, even though we tell women to be sexy, we tell them to be that.
Yes.
You also know that you're taking on criticism when you become that, right? Like, or, you know, women, you're afraid of women not liking you.
Yeah.
Or you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. It's the whole thing. It reminds me of the America Ferrera speech in the Barbie movie, where it's like, you gotta stand up for yourself, but not too much, and you gotta be this and not too much.
Right.
And it's you gotta be sexy, but not too sexy.
Correct.
Like it's this impossible thing to reach. But I have to say, I would have loved to have been a kid and see some like scary women, ragey, good and bad guys that like looked scary.
Yeah, I even think of when you were just talking, I was thinking about like Fiona from Shrek.
Yeah.
And how like when she was an ogre, she had to people didn't want her to be that way. They wanted her to go back to the human Cameron Diaz version. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah. Yes.
Like, you can't win. You can't just have a body. You can't just exist.
No. There's always a different version of yourself you're supposed to be.
Right.
And I just feel like Medusa's story is so perfect for that feeling. Okay. Also, Medusa is either represented as the victim or the monster, and never all of the things.
Right.
And that bothers me too. And I feel like that's very telling of how we see women.
Right.
You know, like I think all the time about how someone will be surprised when, I think this happens to both of us, but I'll say me for the example of like, when I stand up for myself or I lay a boundary or I tell someone to cut the shit or whatever, because they're like, oh my God, but you seem so nice. I am so nice.
It doesn't, me like raising my voice or holding a boundary doesn't negate the other parts of me.
Yes.
And it doesn't influence those either. Like those can coexist.
I can be both very nice, but also have good boundaries and call people out or stand up for people. That is who I am. And I know we talked in the inner child things, like I don't like the labels. True. But I really think a lot of women feel that way because it's sort of like you labeled me that way. And it's like, well, I'm all of those things. I can be a ragey swamp monster sometimes, and I can be a kind, sweet angel too.
Right. Because you're afraid that, or I'm afraid that if people see me mad or upset or vocal, even just vocal, right? Like, I'm afraid that people are going to see my social media where I am very vocal and that they're going to then like not like me. But what I mean by that subconsciously is that you're not going to like see that kind part of me anymore. Or
you're going to just, you're going to erase it.
Right. Like it doesn't exist anymore.
Something else.
Right. So now you don't like me. You don't see or validate any of the like like quieter parts of me,
Yeah.
or the more polite versions of me,
Right.
because you're seeing this other side of me. Why does it have to be one or the other?
Exactly.
And why aren't you taking like those kind parts of me that you love, the warm, accepting parts of me, and being like, oh, Jamie's pissed about this. Maybe there's a reason for that.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. If this person that I know as being kind and warm and empathetic and really caring of other people's feelings,
Right.
is now voicing something in person, on social media, whatever, that they are passionate about and they're upset about, that should give them more, like, they have evidence of your character.
Correct.
That should give them, it should give more legitimacy to what you're saying.
Exactly.
And less, but instead it gives less legitimacy to who you are, which makes no sense.
Right. It's like all or nothing. It's like nice guy or vocal.
Yeah. It's really frustrating.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think about too is that, you know, people tell stories of you to other people or whatever, and quite often paint people as a villain. And now this is I feel like this happens to me a lot, where without consulting me or without me having any sort of role in anything, someone just decides I'm a villain in their story.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, I know it happens to you too. But it's like, okay, you just cast me as the villain.
Right.
And now when I hear people talking about someone in their life as a villain, and it's not just like someone I care about venting to me.
Right.
When I hear someone talking about this villain in their life, and they're not just saying like, oh, they made me feel like this or this hard thing happened. If they're like, this person's the worst and they're this and they're out to get me all the time, I'm immediately questioning the person saying it.
Right.
Right. Like,
yeah.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Yep.
Maybe you feel that, but why are you trying to influence me to think that this person's also a villain?
True.
Okay?
Right.
But I don't think other people do that enough. Because people will meet me and they'll be like, oh my God, I heard this story about you or this thing, and it like doesn't match. And I'm like, huh, interesting. Maybe you should form your own opinion.
Exactly.
But again, if someone is portraying somebody else as just like one dimensional, especially if they're a woman, maybe question it.
Just think about it a little bit.
Think about it.
Yeah.
So my point of that rant is, that's why I love to channel Medusa.
Yeah.
For all the amazing things about Medusa, I love channeling the energy of like, I feel like people cherry pick her story and they're like, now she's the victim and she represents all the victims. But before she was the bad guy and she's scary. And it's sort of just like, she's actually all that stuff.
Yeah.
And if you need her to represent you as a victim, I think that's amazing. But also if you need her to represent you as someone who's frequently misunderstood or cast in a certain way or whatever, like, also great.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I love the energy of Medusa. To me, it feels very, very powerful. Now, this is so interesting because the fact that you sent me an Instagram reel is not interesting because we send each other stuff like that all the time. But you sent me one that I saw today. I don't know when you sent it. And it was exactly talking about something that I feel like is true. It was just like very magical timing.
Oh.
Okay. So one thing about Medusa and Gorgons in general is that they were always female and they were always protectors.
Yep.
Okay. And one thing that I feel like is like, especially in my family, I'm the protector. Like if someone says something about somebody or whatever, I'm the one running up and like yelling in someone's face. Like, do you remember that TikTok trend where someone's like, there's the nice one, and like that's my husband. Like the kind, nice, sweetest person you've ever seen. Okay?
Diplomatic.
Yes. I will, if you look at him funny, if you say something unkind about him, I will hold a grudge to you forever. And that's for anyone that I love and care about. Like, I'm all set. You say something unkind, I'm going to call you out. Like, that's me.
I like that.
Okay. And I'm going to step in front. But as in a couple, I'm the only woman in my family, my immediate family. I have a husband and 2 sons.
True.
Okay. I am the one for all of them that does that.
Right.
And sometimes I get this like weird reaction where I feel kind of funny about it. Like, because the men are supposed to be the protectors.
Oh, interesting.
But all the women I know are the protectors.
I was going to say, you're the mother.
But you are that person in your family too. Like excuse me, no, you will not treat you're the manager of everyone's like every woman I know is that.
Yeah.
But every time I see a movie or a TV show, It's the man protecting the poor woman's
That's a great
feelings.
point.
And that's not legit to me. So when I see these stories of like these gorgons, I'm like, yes, that's to me, that's female. That's a woman standing up for her friend. That's a woman protecting a man.
Like that, like mother bear.
Yeah, and I don't have a sword and a shield doing it, but I have a lot of words for you, and I am good with words.
I've got some real like fast keyboard hands. You know?
Do you know what I mean? Like that to me is very female, but it's not portrayed that way. So
that's the feminine energy that people don't like.
Yeah, they're uncomfortable with it.
No matter what gender has it. Like no matter any gender that's having it, that feminine energy, like people don't like that.
Exactly.
Unless they're protecting you.
It's benefiting
like you
them.
love my energy. You love my like protective, fierce energy when I'm protecting you.
Yes. But if it was turned against me,
then
I would
you don't love it.
No, that would be rough. That would be a rough day. Yeah, exactly. Exactly right. So I was sort of thinking like, this is just something that bothers me, which is a typical thought of mine. Okay. But then you sent me a reel today.
What does it say?
Okay. So it was like, so it's this, as a man posted a thing that was like, tell me in the comments what you love about women.
Oh, yes.
And I would say, I scrolled through all of them. I got all teary reading them.
Yes.
They're all very nice. I would say a good majority of them were how protective they are, how they'll stand up for me, how they'll, they're the one that says like, a lot of men being like, my wife's always the one that's, excuse me, he ordered fries with this. And they want, like, that's making sure their people get what they need in that form of protection.
Yes.
It was written by men over and over and over and over again.
And predominantly Black men and men of color. It's posted by a Black man.
Yes.
And a lot of the commenters are men of color.
Yep.
Which I think speaks to stereotypes that we have in this country about Black men.
A fantastic point. Absolutely.
Right? Like I noted that too. I was like, look at these Black men here speaking up for women and like saying things in the most wonderful ways.
And the comments weren't, they're so beautiful. Like
no,
none of the ones I read were those kinds of comments.
The thing, the original post was, outside of anything sexual or beauty related, what is your favorite thing about women?
Yeah.
And it was like, I mean, the top one says like conversation, their attention to comfort.
Intuition was a very popular thing.
My wife can laugh me out of at any moment. Yeah. Like they bounce back, the nurturing they do, the amount of energy they put into curating their environment, their joy.
It's beautiful.
It's beautiful.
Find this, but maybe we can like,
I can share it. Yeah.
Find it and read it because it will help you restore faith in humanity for a moment.
Correct.
But also look at the amount of men who talk about how this kind of protection that
their
I'm
intuition.
Talking about.
Correct.
Right. So like, I mean, I probably would be the person that would run and try to fight someone. I am very delusional in the fact that I think that my small 5'0" frame could beat anybody up.
Same. If I'm mad enough, I feel like I really could.
I'll try. I'm not afraid.
Give it a shot.
Yeah, exactly. But I know, I'm sure it's delusional. But
I'm still waiting for my chance to run at like a line of Nazis, like those fucking dorks that march through cities. Yeah. Currently, I don't mean Nazis in Germany. No. I mean the current ones who march in their fucking khaki pants. Yes. Don't come to Boston, but if actually I've already been there. But if you come back and I see you, I've already told my husband that like there's like a contingency plan for my arrest.
Oh yeah, like I'll get the bail money ready. Yeah, it's fine. Yes.
So yes, I am one to run.
Yeah, to defend. But all the women I know are that way. And listen, if I'm talking and you're like, I'm kind of not that way. I don't mean to exclude you or to do like a thing like this, but I know a lot of really amazing, powerful, strong women who that is a trait of them. And I would say more of them are that way than aren't. I know.
And that's why if you see the story of Medusa and you feel like, oh, she's a bad guy, she's the villain, why am I feeling drawn to her? It's because there's that part of you that has that protective, defensive, strong energy that you feel called to, even though you're like, but wait, I'm supposed to feel like I don't like her. But there's a part of her that I feel drawn to. That's why.
Exactly. And that speaks to the consciousness of a story, right? That's why you're drawn. There's something in that energy that is calling to you.
Right. And it may have been twisted and turned and looked a certain way for a movie. Like I think of I mean, there's tons of Greek and Greek mythology retellings, but I think about my kids like reading the Percy Jackson series when they were kids, which I love.
Yes, she's a character in.
She's a part of it, and and she's definitely a bad guy. She's like one of the like the gods that they like, one of the things they have to defeat.
Yes, right.
But when I watch it, I'm like, oh, she's kind of a badass.
I mean, honestly, I've said this
I'm like
many
rooting
times
for Percy, but I'm also like, oh, I love her too.
Sleeping Beauty was my favorite fairy tale, and I related to it on many, many different levels. And you can listen to our podcast on fairy tales to hear more about why.
Yep.
And if you're like, is it? Oh, she's 3 like fairies that she could talk to. Yeah. All of that. But also, I didn't just love Sleeping Beauty. I loved Maleficent.
Yes, you loved Maleficent
because this is a character who goes on in the Disney version, goes on a rampage rage because she wasn't invited to a party. And I gotta tell you something, being left out is the worst. And I don't blame her.
Who doesn't relate to that? Feeling left out and othered. She was othered.
She was othered. She was outcast.
Right.
And then in other tellings you hear why, and like in the actual version, she doesn't exist. That she was made up later. But like the original version, there's no Maleficent in Sleeping Beauty. Like I won't get all into that. But you know what I'm saying? Like if you're also drawn to these like powerful bad guys, like there's a reason.
Yeah.
Because there's something in that energy that resonates. And if you're like, why am I confused about this? It's because there are not enough characters for you as women. And I'm talking about as a white woman, never mind as a woman of color.
Correct.
Like, are you kidding? There's not enough for you to look at to understand why. There's not enough characters that are both.
Right. And we're raised in a culture that tells us we have to be good all the time.
Yeah.
You have to be good. You have to people please. You have to be subservient and submissive. You have to do all these things for everyone else and put yourself last. And don't get us started on like the obituaries.
Oh,
so
God.
Selfless.
So the Mother's Day cards.
Yes. Right. So when you are like, you're connecting with the energy of someone who's putting themselves first and protecting themselves, it feels wrong.
Yes.
It feels wrong to you.
Yes, because of your programming.
Correct.
Intuitively, it doesn't.
No.
But your program is telling you.
No, it's your intuition that's connecting you to it. And it's like, oh, I like that. I like that. I want to be like that.
I feel like a broken record again, but I don't care. Earlier, in pagan times, before patriarchal religion, all of the figures, mythology-based gods, goddesses in every culture, they were never represented as total good and total evil.
Correct.
Every single one was both. And so then you get this like casting problem of like, well, is Medusa a good guy or a bad guy?
Right.
Well, she's both.
Right.
Is this person a hero or a bad guy or a monster? Probably both.
And don't forget that like the second that you're in black and white thinking,
yes,
good guy, bad guy, right, wrong, you're in ego.
Yes.
You're out of intuition. You're not operating with your own intuition. You're in like that ego energy.
And then there are these stories that come along of people that like screw it up. Like I think of Monica Lewinsky, cast as a villain. And then suddenly people went, Anita Hill sort of looked back with a little time and went like, wait a minute.
Fucking hosed.
What? How is she?
She was the victim. That's that like sleeping your way to the top bullshit.
But it's the Medusa story and it's repeated all the time. And you go, maybe it's not that simple. I mean, this will give you a headache, but Gypsy Rose.
Oy.
Is she a good guy or a bad guy? People are constantly asking that question.
I have no idea.
Because stories like that show you that it's not that cut and dry.
It's not.
It is not that simple. The Menendez brothers, there's that controversial Netflix thing.
I'm not watching it.
Yeah, for multiple reasons.
No, they made it. They twisted it. I can already tell from the previews they're twisting it. Don't get me started.
Yeah, exactly. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like,
they were the victims, and so is Gypsy Rose.
And did they do bad things? Yes. So are they also the bad guys? Yes, because that's actually how humans are. Except you're holding yourself to a standard of having to be all good or all bad or evil or whatever you want to say. And that doesn't make any sense. That was never real. That's programming to control you.
Yes. So
is Medusa a good guy or a bad guy? She's both.
Yep.
As are you, listener, watcher, whatever you're doing. Okay. I'll try to reel it in now, but I could keep going. All right. Images of Medusa's head and also of other gorgons have you can find them on amulets, I'm wearing one right now. An amulet, again, is just anything you're using for protection, any symbolic thing.
Yes.
People will say to me, like, doesn't have to be a cup. I'm like, what?
Oh, is that like Indiana Jones or something?
I think so. It could be a
Interesting.
cup. I mean, but it's anything that has some sort of energetic value to you.
Okay.
That's what we mean.
Right.
But it's protection from bad energy was always what the Gorgons were doing. And I think people were like, why is there a Gorgon on a church? Because that's all love and light. No.
Well, and also, don't get us started on the fact that churches took all of these pagan things and incorporated them into their new religion to get people to buy in. We'll give you the fucking Gorgons if you just show up to mass.
Come in and we'll throw the Gorgons in. We're going to call it Christmas, but it's all the Yule traditions twisted a bit without any.
We'll give you enough
just
so you stay on board.
Yeah.
Right. And we won't have to murder you and burn your house down.
I mean, that's the same exact tactics are used right now for political siding.
100%.
So whatever. Ooh, I'm trying not to get started on that. Okay, reeling it in. Anyways, there were always protection and there were always power. Those were the symbols. So if you want to wear something, maybe you have crystals for protection and power, awesome. Yeah. But you can also have Medusa if you would like, or any Gorgon. And she can be hot and sexy, or she can be scary looking, or it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah, or you can have a picture of your grandmother, Virginia Stetson. It can
Virginia,
be whatever you want.
Yeah, I'll post a picture for you. You can use it. She didn't give a goddamn about anything. She'd go up to you and take your shopping cart from you because she didn't have one. That if you need that, sometimes we need that energy.
She's the villain. She's the villain.
She's both.
She takes my shopping cart. She's a villain, but I loved her.
But if she took someone else's for you, she'd be the hero. So it just depends because everybody's
how are you telling the story, and it also depends on how you're telling the story.
But also, no one's grandma was 100% sweet and lovely, and no one's grandma was 100% badass.
And all your grandmas who you thought were like supposed to be in this like tea sipping archetype were probably. My grandmother was a badass.
So was mine.
And she'd say it like it was, and she might hurt your feelings doing it, but like she wasn't like dainty and demure.
No, demure, no, absolutely not. I do know, and also she would cook me the best meal I've ever had in my life.
100%.
So some of those stereotypes, work.
Exactly.
Some of them don't because they're multifaceted people. Exactly. Everybody.
Yep. Okay. Rein it in again.
I'm trying. So also currently on a lot of women's shelters, you will see Gorgons or Medusa put on there, like literally on the buildings or on the signs as a symbol to women of both safety. Power and protection. Yeah. Yes, come be protected. Savior. Yeah, and the symbols are of women. Love it. So less triggering.
Yeah.
Also, like I mentioned before, a symbol of the Me Too movement. So awesome. On many flags and many coats of arms, you will find Gorgons.
That's cool.
Okay. So go look at these ancient ones. If you happen to be able to look back in your family history, which is also a very white privileged thing for there to be records of.
Yep.
So if you're able to do that, you could have a coat 100%. Of arms with a Gorgon on it. That was very common.
Yep.
Okay. A powerful woman on a coat of arms. What?
It's awesome.
It happened. Flags. I found a bunch. I wasn't going to show all the flags because that's dorky, but there's a lot of flags like for different, not necessarily for countries, but for different states or different provinces with Gorgons on them. So just in conclusion, Jamie, Medusa, icon, literally a woman with many faces, literally many faces.
Right.
She's all of the things. She's a layered female character. Maybe she's the good guy. Maybe she's the bad guy. Maybe she's the victim. Maybe she's the perpetrator. Maybe she's all of those things.
Yep.
And so are you.
Correct.
So if you'd like to channel that energy, you don't have to wear the necklace. You can. You can get a tattoo. You can just call it into yourself. You can say it. You can, what would Medusa do? Whatever you want. That's what you can do. But you can also do that with a character in a book or your friend or whatever. Like there are times where I think to myself, this is like a form of channeling. If Jamie saw me saying this right now, she would hit me. She's not with me, but if she heard me saying this thing about myself in front of these people, she would correct me and then she would pull me aside and tell me to cut the shit. That is channeling. That's all what that is. It doesn't have to be, let me call in, Princess Diana to tell me what I should do with my life.
Yeah,
like it doesn't.
Right.
That's not, how does that help your life on a regular basis?
Right.
That's so cool. Try it
Yes.
and let me know how it goes. But also, maybe you just pull in some part of her energy that you respect and like apply it in your life that day.
Right. And it only is actually weird when you make it your whole personality.
Yeah.
Like if Medusa is everything,
Yeah.
like manages all of the ways you operate throughout your
Yeah.
life, or Princess Diana, or who the hell ever.
Right.
Right. Like you are you.
Yeah.
And you can make your own decisions. But like if you need to channel in some energy or call in some energy or think about what someone might do in this situation to help you get into the right state.
Yes.
Perfect.
And also, maybe you just have to think about like, what would my friend say if she heard me talking about
Correct.
myself like this?
Right.
That's beautiful. That is channeling.
Right.
It does not have to be with, candles lit in a circle in the dark.
Exactly.
I've never channeled anything like that. Just to say, as a woohoo person who's tried all the shit, I've never done that.
Right, and that's, to some people, that's what makes it cool and like fun and ritualistic and great and awesome. If that works for you, cool. But it also takes away like the accessibility or like the approachability of it for a lot of people who like don't know how to do that or don't have the time for that or don't like connect with that. It literally can just be a thought.
Yes.
It can just be like...
And that's important clarity. I'm not saying don't do that. I love a great aesthetic. I love a cool aesthetic to do something. I think that's awesome. But I just don't want people to think that that's like everyday life for people who incorporate a lot of woohoo things in their life.
Right.
Okay, like that's not.
Right.
Neither of us do that.
No.
If you invited us over and had that set up for us, we would love it.
Right.
But that's not every day. And like you're saying, it becomes like where you don't feel included in something or like you can actually try it.
Because you're not doing it the right way.
Yeah, but the thing is, if you went to do that and all day long you had been channeling the energy of Medusa for this or, this person for that or your Virginia Stetson for something else, you know what I mean? Then when you went to do a big channeling like that, it would be a lot easier for you because you actually use that all the time.
Right.
And you would now understand what that looks like.
Right. And the only other point I would make is like, I don't think that like, I think you need to think about what energy you want for what.
Yes.
You don't need to call in Medusa energy if you're like making breakfast.
No.
It's not necessary. But like, if you're going to talk to like a problematic coworker or like a boss for whatever reason, and you want to feel a little bit more powerful and a little intimidating.
Yes.
That is the perfect time to call in that type of energy.
So it's 100% agree.
Medusa doesn't have to run your life.
No, it's not the only energy you ever call in.
Right. And
also, I might call in Medusa for a completely different kind of energy than you would call Medusa in for. And that's all, that all makes sense and works.
Right.
Like, if I'm going to go like read a story to small children, I'm not going to channel Medusa for that. That would be weird.
Yes.
Okay.
Who would you call in for that?
Let's see.
Snow White.
Yeah, I think I would take on more of like I want to still look. Okay.
Like the witchy Stregonona who's like, you know what I mean?
I would want to appear still really strong.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people take that and they're like, let me soften myself 100%. But from my experience with children is that's not
need to be.
Yeah, firm. I'm not going to turn into like Snow White skipping through the woods
or like Tinkerbell or something. No.
I'm going to try to be like a powerful energy, but I'm definitely going to have like a softened element. But again, you're multifaceted, so I don't know who that character is because I don't think about. I don't typically go read to children. But if I do, maybe you guys should tell us your answers.
Yeah,
maybe we'll try to come up with some.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it now.
Me too.
Okay.
Definitely not Medusa though. But if I was going to go teach a class to men about intuition or how to speak to women or how to like not like I have this dream of teaching like car salesmen how to speak to women.
Oh yeah.
I would maybe channel Medusa.
Please do.
One. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So Medusa for that. Reading to small children, not Medusa.
That. Exactly.
Okay. All right. I need coffee. Maybe we could channel Medusa while we drink coffee and see what happens. All right. Let's do that.
Hey everyone, Heather and I have an ask for you. If you love this episode or if you love the IGG, can you do us a favor? We need you to go onto whatever platform you listen on and download subscribe, like, love, whatever it's asking you to do. Can you go do those things for us on the platforms that you listen on? It would mean so much to us.
Thanks for listening to our episode. For a way to get in touch with us, please visit our website, intuitivegirlsguide.com. We love hearing your feedback on our episodes.